Hello there, everybody. Welcome to today's Personal Effects, the Collectibles show.
John Currier and I have published more than 7,000 prints back in the 19th century, and it seems like today collectors can't buy them fast enough. We're going to be finding out why they've become so popular.
And Io Haynes on the road for us today out in Tucson, Arizona. Io, what are you up to?
I'm outside of our super collector's home, and he says that once his home got to be too small for both him and his collection of Lionel trains to live comfortably in, he moved that collection next door into his own home, which he specially built. We are looking at Lionel trains here on Personal FX.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Personal FX, the Collectibles show. I want you to meet two folks who've come by to have their items appraised. Shirley on the end. Hi, Shirley. How are you?
Hi, John. I'm fine.
What'd you bring to have appraised? What are those?
I'm not sure. Bottle stoppers, I think, and they kind of a nutcracker.
Great. Where'd you get those?
At a garage sale.
That is great. And this is Melissa. Melissa, glad you joined us today.
Nice to be here.
And where are you from?
Originally Philadelphia, but I live here in New York now.
Are you familiar with the show at all? Not at all.
We don't have FX here.
Well, the one rule is you have fun. So enjoy yourself.
Okay.
All right, enough said. If you'd like to be a guest in our FX department and have something appraised, give us a call. 1-800-FX-FX-FX1, and we will set it up. Let's go out to Tucson, Arizona, where Io Haynes is learning all about Lionel trains. Hi there, Io.
Hi, John. We showed you the outside of the home that Lionel Trains built, but now we're inside. Now take a look around. It took 1 year to build this Lionel Train home, and our super collector, Brian Miller, had to get special permission from the zoning board. Brian Miller, thank you for having us in the home of your collection.
Well, you bet.
Now, I understand this home is actually bigger than your own personal home.
Yeah, much to my wife's dismay, I actually built a little bigger house for the trains than I have for her.
Gosh.
How did the collection start?
It started when I was a kid. I had a neighbor who had a similar collection to this. They had Lionel trains in every nook and cranny of their house. And I used to go next door to see the kids and just fell in love with all the trains.
So what was your first train set?
First train set's this one right here. I bought this at a yard sale when I was doing my paper route when I was about 11 or 12 years old and paid $1 for it.
$1 for 5 trains?
And that's what got me started, yes.
A great bargain, huh?
Absolutely.
And how many do you have now?
Oh, 100 times that many.
So about 400
400 or
or
500
so.
trains, yeah.
Okay, plus accessories. So we're going to have a great time today.
Well, Brian, I wanted to ask you real quick, are you familiar with the Horde Tour? It's like Lollapalooza, but it's with Neil Young. Are you familiar with that at all?
No.
Actually, Neil Young, if I'm not mistaken, now owns Lionel Trains, and he
Yes,
uses
does.
an incredible display.
He and a group of investors have bought it out, yes.
Apparently, it's just an incredible display during the tour, and I think it's coming to Phoenix on Friday, so you might want to look into that.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll have to go up there.
All right. In the
Thanks for
meantime,
the hot tip.
what's that?
Absolutely.
I said thanks for the hot tip.
Sure thing. We'll check in with the two of you later on. Thanks, Io. Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's get into some appraisals. Claire, who are the appraisers today?
We have John Bruno, Susie Anderson. I'm so impressed our super collector built a whole house for his collection. I'm just looking for more closet space in my apartment, that's all. Meet Bill with our first guest. Where are you from, Bill?
Corpus Christi, Texas.
And what brings you to New York?
Well, we've watched the show, I think, since the first day it came on, and when we've tried to get on it, and we have daughters that live up here, so we tried to do both things at one time, get on the show and see our daughters.
I'm glad you're having a successful family reunion, and you're our guest, our first guest of the day as well.
Thank you very much.
What did you bring to be appraised?
I brought a gold watch that was my great-grandfather's, then my grandfather's, and it got to me.
Oh, how nice that this has been passed along from generation to generation. What do you know about it?
Not too much. I know it's almost 100 years old. It's 14-karat gold. The serial numbers all match because I've had the jeweler look through it. And that's about all I do know of it.
Let's fill in some blanks for you.
It's a lovely Elgin pocket watch, the Matador, I believe. Mascot, I'm sorry, it's called Mascot is the style of the watch. Beautiful porcelain face, Roman numerals, 14-karat gold, hunting case. It's a very, very pretty watch.
That's
very
right.
typical of the late 1880s through the 1920s are
Right.
manufacturing this watch.
And if you take the serial number and run it against the Elgin watch book, you can tell exactly what year that was fabricated in.
Yep.
So it's quite easy for an appraiser to know how old it is, and your time frame is correct on that piece.
And what will determine some of the more valuable pieces?
The craftsmanship, the workmanship, anything that's different and unique on the dial.
Scarcity of a model.
Yep. The amount they're actually manufactured. This is a fairly prevalent watch. It was very typical for a gentleman to carry this on weekends or for special occasions. It's not a daily use watch. It's a much softer watch, a dress watch. But there are a few of them out there. I see a number of them. They're worth somewhere in the $150 to $250 range, maybe into the $300 for a really mint condition watch.
I agree with you pretty much on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, could be up to
Very nice.
$300.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the family sentimentality department,
Right.
worth a whole lot more. You know you have the option from watching the show of putting it up for sale or keeping it.
Oh, I'd put it up for sale.
You would?
Sure,
We'll
let
do
somebody
that
else
for you.
enjoy it.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you here. And our number to call is 212-802-0082 because he's in the selling spirit. And Richard is coming up next. Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Good to have you with us. And where are you from?
Newburgh, New York.
Nice to have you here. Do you collect things like this, or what do you collect?
Not really. I collect baseball cards.
Oh, baseball cards. And where'd you get this?
From my grandmother, which came from her grandmother.
Good family item.
Okay.
Do you know anything about it?
Just that it's over 100 years old, I can tell you that.
Well, I don't think I'd quite agree with that. And the fact that you might have missed is, John, if you put them side by side, and I don't know if a television camera can pick it up, is they're not quite a match. The color is different on the saucer and on the cup, meaning it's a marriage. The two have been put together, which is very usual with this kind of wear.
Another key for that is the style.
Right.
The footed mug is actually what this
Right.
is. Would not normally be in an indented plate where you would put the round bottom of a cup.
Exactly.
It would be a smooth bottom, wouldn't have that separate ring for
And the-
location.
And the scallop doesn't match from the top to the bottom.
scallop to top of the two edges don't match.
It's really tough to tell, but an expert can tell. That did not start out in life together. It is a happy marriage, however.
Yeah, they're very close in color in that lavenderish, and they're both iridized, which makes me think they're either Germany or Japanese. I think German is where I'm going to go.
I would go to Germany or Austria on
Yeah.
that.
The fact
Turn
that
of the
it started
century.
out together, how does that affect the value now?
$35.
It's a 50 maximum if somebody really
Okay.
wants it for a collection. Yeah.
Also been in your family for a long time. What are you thinking
Yeah.
of doing? Putting it up for sale?
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll do that?
the price is right.
Okay, we'll let you know. You let us know at the end of the show, all right? Thank you. And Melissa is our next guest. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
So glad you're visiting. Oh, those are some nice theater magazines. Where'd you get them?
My grandmother.
She collects them?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool looking, classic 1930s design. Some of them, the graphics and the color is just screaming that whole post-deco modern look. On the plus side, you get that. On the downside, it's stage, and it's a limited audience. There are real die-hard collectors who would be looking for Theater Guild, but it's a limited number of
A
them.
very limited number.
Yeah.
Pretty much today, like playbills are all over the place, and their value is very small. Of interest are, they can be of interest to historians or theater people. They're great as framed work, just passing the time along, but intrinsically, about $5 a piece.
That's all.
Maybe up to 10 for a very
If there's a good
special
ad
one,
in it.
if special actor or actress
Right.
or a special event. Falls in that whole ephemera category, so condition is everything, which means almost as if they were never used or seen the light of day.
Melissa, you have a whole lot more of them at home?
I've got a stack of them here, about 10 more.
Okay. But that's exactly where they belong, $5, $10, $15, somewhere in there.
In that particular price range, were you wanting to sell the collection?
Grandma says so.
If Grandma says sell, we're going to sell. Aren't we, John?
Well, Grandma, I mean, what are you going to do? Just hanging out with Shirley here. And Shirley, you've been on the show before?
Yes.
When was that?
February 10th.
She tells me this, and she says, don't you remember that was the day when you couldn't remember where you were born? It's like, oh, yeah, okay, I remember that. Let's see, what are we doing next, if I can remember? We're going out to Tucson, Arizona, where Bob's going to give us a preview of the next item to be appraised. Hi, Bob. What you got there?
Hello. I'm going to have my Rookwood Bowl appraised coming up next on Personal FX.
Welcome back to Personal FX. I've been hanging out with Julie, who brought in something that I think we all remember and we've seen on the show. These are Beatles bobbers? Where'd you get them?
I got them at a garage sale from a woman who sold Beatles memorabilia, and it was leftover stock.
Oh, really? How much did you pay for them?
$10.
Just $10?
Yeah.
Well, during the commercial break, you got an appraisal. And what did our appraisers tell you about them?
$125 to $150. $125.
$125. Okay. Now you have a decision to make about whether you want to put them up for sale. Is it going to be...
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, our number to call is 212-802-0082. She loves me, yeah, 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 and she's selling them, yeah, yeah, yeah.
For some reason, Ringo is always missing, isn't he? I don't know why. Why is Ringo always? But not in this case, right? He's
No,
there.
Ringo's there.
That's that. You don't see that every day. Ringo's always missing for some
Beatles
reason.
together again.
There you go. Together again, reunite. All right, let's go out to Tucson, Arizona, where Bob has joined us. Hi, Bob. How you doing today?
Very well, John. How are you doing?
Doing real good, thanks. Tell us more about what you got there.
Well, I have a Rookwood bowl, turn of the century. It's a matte finish, and you can see it here. And
Okay, can we see the bottom,
take
please?
a look at it. Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Rookwood pottery.
Got a lot of unusual markings on it.
Yeah, look at all that.
Early 1900s.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the,
Cecil A. Duo
yeah.
was... Now, that's confusing to me because that is a production piece. That is not a hand-painted piece, but yet we have an artist's signature on the bottom.
May have made it for himself.
Perhaps.
Yes, out of the production line,
Perhaps.
which we do see periodically. Rookwood, one of the most popular pottery companies, of course. It's the one that many of the other companies try to emulate and try to duplicate their quality of wares. Roseville, Hull, in the early days. Just the quality of the artwork was just beyond compare for what it was in the price range at the time.
He was only with Rookwood for a short period of time. His wife continued on. He was a sculptor. He went into World War I, I believe. Rookwood bowls, production line, 100, 125, in that range.
Yeah, this is that whole carved motif that not a lot of these were made, a very limited service for these. They tend to, the real die-hard collectors go actually even higher into the 3 range, 350. So I'll punch it up there. I think that's where it belongs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, what do you think? Do you want to take some bids on that?
Sure, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, we'll let you know. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. And Andrew is up next. Hey, Andrew, how you doing, buddy? Give me a 5. And one up top. All right. What you got here?
I got Pee-wee and Cherry.
Oh, where'd you get this?
My mommy had it.
Oh, yeah? Your mommy had it? Wow, this ought to be interesting. This is pop culture, yeah?
There you go. Cherry
There
is
we
way
go.
cool. We like cherry.
Go ahead.
It's funny.
Okay.
This thing is just starting to go through a resurgence right now. It just appeared on the front cover of Antiques and Collectibles magazine as the hot collectible.
Is that right?
Pee-wee and Cherry and anything related to the whole Pee-wee's
This is
Playhouse.
a puppet.
Yeah, this is a puppet. So, of course, you have to do your
To those
thing
who
with
have never
Cherry.
seen it.
Very nice.
Yep, get back there into a little hand action. It's kind of cool.
And actually, the other items, other than Pee-wee, that went with the Playhouse are more expensive than he is.
Yeah, well, these are fairly common. Most people didn't save the other pieces. They're kind of obscure. But these are actually getting there. They're not going to be retirement yet, but they're getting collectible. Starting to pop up now. Cherry, I think, is going more than Pee-wee, probably somewhere in the 75 to 95 range, and Pee-wee's doing around 50 to 75.
I'm a little bit lower, but I understand where you're coming from.
They're probably kind of cool.
Did you ever get a chance to see that show, the Pee Wee Herman show?
Yeah. I have 3 tapes of it.
Oh, yeah?
I have 1 old one and 2 new ones.
Oh, great. So the total value on this?
Probably 150 to 200 tops.
And 75 to 100.
Okay. Well, what do you think? Do you want to see if anybody wants to buy them, or do you want to keep them?
I want to see.
If somebody wants to buy them. Yeah, I knew you would. Thank you, buddy. Nicely done. Nicely done. See ya. All right, Linda is up next. Come on in, Linda. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Where are you from?
Branchburg, New Jersey.
Welcome. Now, what do you have here?
I have the John Lennon Yoko Ono album, and I purchased it probably in secret because all of my contemporaries were so upset with the marriage and the breakup of the Beatles that I tucked it away, and only the outside actually has any wear on it.
Well, I got the same verbiage this morning from this one, so here we go.
We all felt that way, broke up a wonderful group. However, John and Yoko have become exceedingly popular, and to have the wedding album with all the goodies involved, and it looks like you have everything here, if I'm not mistaken, the record itself in particularly good shape, all the little gewgaws and pieces that came with it. You had to kind of live through that period to get a feel and understand what bagism and all the rest of it meant. But the record is in particularly good shape. Looks like it's almost never been played. And it is on the Apple album, of course.
How rare are these today?
Actually, fairly, because a lot of people didn't place much credence in the whole Yoko Ono John Lennon grouping, and as a result, they didn't save these as even then a collector's or a future collectible. So there are not a lot out there, and when you do find them, you don't find all the photo op stuff with it, all the press releases.
Well, I know you're having fun flipping through that, John,
yeah, there's a lot of stuff
I got to
here.
get you on a value here.
Okay,
What do you think?
to peg down, I'd actually put this thing in the $350 range at the moment. It's getting highly desirable and in this condition with everything here. If it was totally mint, which would meant without the label being pulled off and this not being discolored, you can get into the 4 range. It's very desirable.
200 to 300.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
Really
You want
cool.
to take some bids?
I absolutely do.
All right. Thank you very much for bringing that by. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Okay.
That's cool.
Angel is up next. Hi, Angel. Come on in. How's life?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, where are you from?
Jersey City.
Welcome. Now, what do you have here? What is this?
It's a lamp. You have to plug it in.
This is a lamp. And what is this made out of?
Tusk.
Tusk. Where did you get this?
My husband bought it at either Sotheby's or Christie's auction about 35 years ago.
Is that right?
Just see it. It's actually more of a night light or a mood light.
Right.
And in a darkened room, it would project up onto the ceiling as well.
Okay. Good news or bad news?
I think bad news, unfortunately.
It's not.
It's not ivory.
It is molded resin.
I didn't like that.
It is a nice early one from the early part of the 20th century, but it is not real.
One of the things that is a giveaway, first, is weight. It's the weight is just off. It's much, much, much too heavy.
Flip inside and let them look on the inside.
Yeah. It's too evenly done. This is punched out of an injection mold. It's not carved resin, it's molded resin.
Remember, this is supposed to be an elephant's tusk, so you can imagine what the inside of an elephant's tusk would look like. No way resembles that.
There's no striations that you would get from real ivory. It's just way too smooth and way too finished. Another giveaway is the fact that, I don't know if you can see it in there, but the screws, there are screws holding different pieces together here. Much too fragile to do that with real ivory. It's a different pinning method that is used. This is an industrial design.
Right.
It's meant to look like ivory or to resemble a tusk, but it's just resin.
The value?
As a decorative piece, then it's somewhere in the 125 range.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, what do you think?
I'll take some bids.
You'll take some bids, and we will let you know. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Appreciate that. Okay. All aboard. We're heading out to Lionel City out there in Tucson, Arizona, where Io Haynes is conducting a preview of a super collecting segment. Io?
All aboard that's going aboard. You know, Lionel trains from the 1930s are the hardest to come by. Now, remember in the 30s, there's a depression going on. The average salary per week is $20. But take a look at this train station and terrace. It's sold for $27. And this top-of-the-line train down here sold for $77. Like I said, not many people could afford them, and not many of the trains have survived over the years. But we are going to look at some rare Lionel trains and accessories coming up on Personal FX.
A Hunter, a tight fix, sold for $63,000 in 1993.
That's a lot of money.
Did
Well, we're
you
going to
know?
be seeing all kinds of Curry and Ives prints a little later on in the program. Let's tell you about the items, though. They're up for sale, starting with the Elgin pocket watch that dates back to about the 1880s to the earlier part of the century into the 1920s. It's 14-karat gold, a common type of watch from that time, in very nice condition and worth about $150 to $300. We also have the cup and saucer. They didn't start out life together. There was a marriage that went on, John. Worth about $35 to $50. Going back to about the 1890s to the early teens, probably German or Austrian. And then for those of you who are big theater fans, we have the Theater Guild magazines that have an appraised value of, well, between about $80 to $160 for all. There are about 16 total, or $5 to $10 each from the 1930s. And the Beatles bobbers. We've seen them before, and we'll see them again. They're still bobbing at $125 to $150. They're made of plastic from the late 60s, and they are in good condition.
Also out in Tucson, Arizona, we have the Rookwood Bowl that was appraised, and the value there is about $100 to $350 from the early 1900s. Carved motif, and Rookwood is always very popular. We've got the Pee Wee Herman doll and chair, and this was appraised at $75. There's a switch back here, by the way. We didn't notice before. It kind of gets the eyes going, which is kind of cool. That was appraised at $7,500 to $200 for both. That's pop culture, and always very popular. Yoko Ono and John Lennon album, and this was appraised at $200 to $350. The record is in great shape, and it's got all the extras, and that in and of itself is pretty rare. Last but not least, we have the figural lamp, and that was appraised around $125, made of molded resin from the early 1900s, industrial design, and that, of course, is a decorative item.
We've got an assortment of items for you to bid on, and here's our bid number. It's 212-802-0082. And I can certainly understand our super collector just every day going and playing with his trains and having the best time in the world.
Claire, the way he's got them decorated,
It's
isn't that great?
fabulous.
Yeah, let's go see some more. I'll take it away.
John and Claire, you know, most collectors collect their childhood. In our super collector's case, he collects his grandfather's childhood because he specifically likes to collect Lionel trains from the 20s and 30s. What is it about those eras that draws you?
I don't know. I think it was just a great time in America. The turn of the century through World War II, kind of easygoing lifestyles for people, and it's just a wonderful time.
So what's the oldest piece in your collection?
Probably older Lionel pieces would be a couple of these tin buildings right here. They date from about 1923. You can tell the station is early because of the lithograph work with the brickwork.
Okay.
They made that station in 4 or 5 other colors up through about 1940, but that would indicate it is an earlier piece.
Do many of these tin toys survive over the years?
Some do. A lot of them were lost to the scrap drives of World War II, but many times, because of the cost of these things initially, they were cared for better toys than, say, just a toy truck or something that would be played with and abused outside. So many of them have survived.
Now, did you have a comet train, a blue comet train like this one we see here?
Yeah,
as a kid?
No, I didn't. This is a very desirable collectible for standard gauge collectors, which is the Blue Comet. This is one coach out of it. What makes this very interesting is that the attention to detail that Lionel put into the cars. If you can look inside here, you can see all the little seats, the bathrooms, even the little toilet seats are hinged and operate inside the cars. And these are quite heavy, and they had very good attention to detail and just a high-quality product they made.
So you talked about standard gauge. What does that mean versus, say, the O gauge?
Gauge refers to the distance between the rails.
Okay.
In other words, the distance on standard gauge is 2 1/8 inches between the rails. What most people associate with Lionel is this type of thing, which is the O gauge, which is 1 1/4 inches between the rails.
And you prefer the standard?
I prefer the standard because it's a little older and earlier.
Okay, talking about preferences, do you prefer to collect the trains or the accessories or both?
A little of both. I've always leaned towards collecting the accessories first. When I first was collecting the standard gauge or the tin Lionel pre-war trains, I knew I was going to have this large layout someday to fill. So I bought accessories first. I've had an option. I had so many dollars to spend, and I had a choice between a car and engine or an accessory. I always bought the accessory first.
Now, what about this railroad crossing sign?
These are kind of interesting to show variations. The black base on this one is the common normal production. It was made for many, many, many years. The orange production was probably a half a day's production. More than likely, the factory ran out of black paint that day, and of course, they're producing toys, need to keep the assembly line running, so they just grabbed whatever they had.
So the orange is much more valuable than the black?
Probably worth 10 times as much as the black one.
Great. Now, you told me earlier that you collect oddities in Lionel trains.
Yeah, I like bizarre things. In other words, things that would have been dealer factory packages, service station tools, and examples like the light bulb cases. These were sent to dealers rather than just someone buying it, and you'd buy the bulb from the package.
And these bulbs would go in the lanterns we see here, in the houses.
Engines in the houses everywhere. In fact, this particular package came out of Tucson hobby shop here in town where I bought light bulbs as a kid.
Now, are these very expensive?
They can be. They because of their rarity.
And they're not made anymore, are
They're not made anymore. More and more people are now being focused into those types of collectibles where they hadn't had much attention paid to them for many years.
Now, earlier I talked about the 30s and the Depression. What happens in the 40s during World War II?
Well, of course, there was no steel available to make trains with, or metal. There were, wartime shortages and rationing. So they made what they called the paper train.
Was that very successful?
Train. Not really, because it's these little cardboard cutouts, and you'd have to try to put it together. In this particular one, you can see the child got frustrated after just building the caboose and stopped there, which is very often the case.
Right, and this train has been derailed, and it's over on the rocks there.
On the rocks, yeah.
And so it wasn't a success back then.
And because of the nature of it being paper, most of them were just pitched out and not kept.
Oh, man. What about other things that Lionel trains made that weren't successful?
One of their biggest fiascos was 1957 when they thought they would market trains to girls.
Right.
In fact, here in the catalog tells you now she can do anything he can do with Lionel's new exclusive pastel train set for girls. Well, any self-respecting girl who wanted a train, wanted a real-looking train. They didn't want that lilac and buttercup yellow and all that kind of stuff.
It matches my dress beautifully.
Yes, it does. But they wanted a more real-looking train. So many trains were repainted by
Mm.
dealers just to sell them because they couldn't move them out of their inventory.
So it went back to the dealer, they repainted and sold them again, and the girls probably bought them in the regular colors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that is so great. Thank you so much for letting us come into the home that you built for your collection. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming.
God, it's amazing. Brian, your collection is extremely extensive. I know Butterfield and Butterfield just had a big auction last Tuesday, Do you have any of the trains like the ones that went up for sale there?
I've got one that's similar. The Silver Union Pacific set. This was the mainstay of the line. In 1950, they produced it in yellow and a dark gray color, which they called the anniversary set. I had one of those years ago and sold it with that 50s collection. That's the most desirable. Then in 1951, they made it in silver with gray tops. Then in 1952, all in silver.
Wow, that is fantastic.
And the one at Butterfield, that one went for about $3,400. Is that right?
That's about right for a really nice one.
Boy, that's an amazing collection. I can't help but feel like we're in a helicopter flying over this thing. Thank you both very much. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
That is nice.
I like the silver train, but I love everything that he has. Accessories, accessories,
Paper
accessories.
trains, pink trains.
This is marvelous. Do you guys like Courier knives?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Well, so do a lot of people. We'll find out what's kept them so popular since the 19th century when we come back.
I have Carol here. Hi, Carol. How are you?
Hi, John. How
Glad
are you?
you're here. Thanks for stopping by. Where are you from?
Corpus Christi, Texas.
I'm glad you're here. Now, what did you bring?
The Wedding of the Bees.
Now, where'd you get that? What is this? Where'd you get this?
I got it in the antique store. I was looking for a Hummel figurine, and I found that instead.
Oh, all right. Now, the Wedding of the Bees, is that a theme? Or
Well, I got to tell you, we've been looking at this, and there's two schools of thought. First, the bee is the mark for Hummel, so this could be a play on the Wedding of the Bees. They keep changing the bee mark over the years.
Forgive me, but what is the Wedding of the Bees that I keep hearing? That's a...
Well, it's
Look,
two bees
this
getting
is
married.
two bees getting married.
Now, did Hummel make some of these? Is that...
Well, we're into the land of strange and unique.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me show you the bottom.
All right.
This is what bothers me. It's double marked. It's got the wide crown impressed mark, plus a full bee, plus it says Germany. And with my loop, we looked very carefully on a 30 power around this edge and into the middle. There was no wear, no oxidation. That bothers me.
Yeah. The other thing that bothers me, bring it back up to the camera, is the color. This is very typical. You have to really see it live. I hope the camera's catching it, but it's sort of a tawdry-looking glow to it. It just is very, very glaring. All my instincts, regardless of the marks, are screaming that this is a repro.
All right, so the
Somebody
value...
has played with it. With that in mind, its value is going to be negligible, $25. If it turns out being real, do that.
I'm going to have to give the same caution.
Okay.
I will not authenticate this piece. We
All right.
need a expert.
All right. If it's authenticated as real, what's the value?
Well, then it would be up there, but I must tell you, this appears in no documentation anywhere.
I've never seen a reference
no
to
book from Hummel or Goebbels, anywhere. If it were real, it would be multi-thousands.
Agreed?
I would say if it were real, maybe 500.
Okay.
But I have huge questions
I
about
really
it.
don't believe it.
All right.
Yeah.
Carol, what do you think? Do you want to take bids?
All right.
We'll take some bids and we'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you very much for bringing that by. Tell
Thank
everyone
you.
back in Corpus Christi we said hello.
I sure will.
All righty. And up next, incidentally, the phone number to call in case you want to place a bid, 212-802-0082 is the number to call. Shirley has joined us. Hi, Shirley.
Hi.
Come on in. Now, tell us again about these, we think, are bottle stoppers.
Yeah, I was told they were bottle stoppers, but they're also like little nutcrackers. They do everything from tip their hat to take a little smooch.
Oh, that's interesting.
Very, very typical. They are bottle stoppers. That's a cork meant to go in any kind of bottle, whether it be wine or whiskey or beer. Very typical of the 1860s through the 1930s, mostly out of Italy and Germany, a form of folk art. You might as well have something that is a little fun as well as functional, and that's exactly what these are.
These are more from the 1920s, 1930s. These, in particular, happen to be Italian, and it's a wonderful figural set. What these are sometimes used for by disreputable dealers are to use the top and fashion them to walking sticks, because the walking sticks are more valuable than the bottle stoppers. In total, you're looking at about $200 there.
Yeah, that's about right. 25 to 35, max 50 each. And you're absolutely right. One of them is broken, just needs to be restrung, but they're a lot of fun.
Okay.
And you can use them.
What do you think? Do you want to take some bids?
Sure.
See what happens.
You bet.
Thank you for bringing those by.
Thank you.
All right, let's go out to Tucson, Arizona, where Sandra has joined us to have an item appraised. Hi, Sandra. How you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. Tell us what you got in your hand there, and not the FX microphone. I'm familiar with that one, but the other thing, what do you have?
Well, this is an icon from Russia. You can see the Cyrillic alphabet printing on it. And we found this in my father's mother's things. She was a fashion designer, and she had a collection of art, and she loved art of all kinds, and so I assume that she picked this up. There was a note with it that said Montreal, Canada, so I assume that's where she bought it, although it was evidently made in Russia.
Okay.
It has...
I know
it has what? I'm sorry, Sandra?
You can see the cutouts that it has where the hands and face show through, and if I could take the cover off, I could show you the painting underneath. It has a beautiful painting, and it's on wood, and obviously very old.
All right. What do you think?
I was going to ask her, I know it's difficult, but to do just that, take the cover off or turn it around. But very typical of later Russian icons where there were three-dimensional and a fancy covering was placed over a gilt painted on wood saint of some sort. Very, very interesting piece, but the metalwork on top is in almost mint condition.
And a lot of them are solid sterling and gold. So that is going to determine its value. This size has not been duplicated. They are also made in Greece, but this is a Russian one.
Absolutely.
There are 2 and 4. An icon this large, not to be in sterling, is going to be surprising to me.
Yeah, I would really err on the side of sterling, but have you seen any marks on the metal piece that indicates some sort of silver content?
I haven't, but I've never cleaned the silver. I sort of like the look of it as it is, so there might be a mark under it. I really don't know.
This is a whole separate area of collectability, and these things can get pretty expensive when they are in the right kind of condition, and this appears to be in very good condition. I'm going to assume that it's silver, not knowing difference because of the size, and say it's probably worth somewhere in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, if not more.
Yeah, if it is not silver, it is worth under $1,000. If it is silver and gold, $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
Very nice. Well, Sandra, what do you think? Do you want to take some bids?
Well, I think that's wonderful, and yes, I'd love some bids.
We'll let you know. Thank you very much for bringing that by.
You're welcome.
Okay, it is time now to learn all about these prints, so Claire, I'm sending this over to you.
Well, John, in the 19th century, you could buy a curry knives print like this for, well, 25 cents or more at the general store. But there are some collectors today who have paid $50,000 or more. And Robert Newman is joining us to tell us about Currier knives, and you're a specialist in the category.
Thank you.
Welcome. Please tell us about Mr. Currier and Mr. Ives and what made their work so popular.
Well, they were the premier publishers of lithographs in the 19th century, image people, giving the public inexpensive images to hang in their homes. Therefore, they fall under the category of classic Americana.
And people just love them because they were Americana.
Yes.
Which are the ones that are most popular with collectors today? Let's take a look at one right over here.
The winter scenes seem to be the most popular with the general collecting public. Some people collect trains, but everybody collects winter scenes.
So are these the most valuable ones?
Not necessarily. The rarer ones determine the value. The winter scenes were popular in the 19th century. They are amongst the more valuable ones and the harder ones to get because of the demand today.
Give us a sense in terms of the price range.
This print's around $12,000, for instance, the New England winter scene. I think the winter scenes peak out at about $30,000.
A little pricey for some of us in the pocketbook.
Yes.
How about we take a look at some that are more affordable for collectors and in more people's price ranges? Tell us about these.
Well, these are the sentimental prints, religious prints, and the sentimentals can be as low as $100 or just under.
Why are these so much cheaper?
They're not as desirable today as they actually were in the 19th century.
So they were more desirable in the 19th century.
Yes.
What should you look for?
Well, you look, basically with anything, you look for condition, make sure there's no major stains or tears in an image, that it's relatively bright. Currier knives' colors were particularly strong. They were not known for their sensitivity in coloring, so they oftentimes use brilliant colors.
Really, as we move along, that they didn't do limited editions of their prints. They would just use a stone again and again and again.
They printed prints until they wore out, literally. And impression qualities, this one in particular, as the impressions wore out on the stone, you lost details, such as this mound of bushes in the back will begin to disappear, and the impression quality becomes inferior.
So how can that determine the value? If you have one that's very sharp and very clear, how much more valuable would it be?
as much as double the value of the print. Impression quality is in the rarity is the keynote factor. A great impression will always bring more than an average or poor impression.
Now with Curry and Ives, we think of it having lots of reproductions. What do buyers have to be aware of as we take a look maybe at this last print over here?
Well, most of the reproductions are photomechanical, whereas a lithograph is a snowflake pattern. No dot is the same when you look at it through a loop, whereas most reproductions will have a very dedicated screening pattern. There are a group of reproductions, this is not one, but this image was reproduced, that were done in the 1940s, excuse me, that are cellotype litho process that's hand-colored, and those are very difficult to tell.
Because the reproductions are that good, it looks like an original?
Well, the reproductions are lithographs, unfortunately, and the originals are lithographs.
But if you're paying for one thing and you're not getting it,
It's a bad thing. They're decorative value only.
so one needs somebody like you there to know?
Well, it's a good thing. If you're going to spend a lot of money, you should have somebody that knows what they're doing or be comfortable with what you're doing.
Okay,
so
and if
you
you're
know.
buying a reproduction, then you're paying a whole lot less, and that's fine.
Yeah, a couple of $100 for a decent reproduction is not too bad for the better prints.
Thank you so much for being with us and showing us some of these
You're
current
welcome.
nice prints. They're classic. They'll live forever.
Thank you.
And we come back, we're going to have more appraisals, so stay with us for more Personal FX. Welcome back to Personal FX. It's interesting with Curry and Ives that they didn't. Today everything is limited edition.
Yeah.
Back in those days there was no limited edition.
Press
We have a bunch of items that are up for sale. They're
Yeah,
getting bids right
different
now. Starting with the Elgin Pocket Watch that has been appraised at $150 to $300. It's made of 14 karat gold, and it is in good condition from the 1880s to the 1920s. And then we have the cup and saucer that kind of got married together later in life. They're worth $35 to $50, but it is a happy marriage, probably German or Austrian. And we have the Beatles bobbers. We have all the Beatles, they all bob, worth $125 to $150 for all, made of plastic from the 60s in good condition. And the Rookwood bowl that we saw out in Arizona from the early 1900s, and very popular, worth $100 to $350.
We've got the Pee Wee Herman doll and chair, and for the two of them, that was appraised at $7,500 to $200. Pee Wee Herman becoming very collectible these days. And we've got the Yoko Ono and John Lennon wedding album, and this was appraised at $200 to $350. The record's in great shape, it's got all the extras, and that makes it rare. We've got the figural lamp, and this was appraised at around $125. It's made of molded resin. It's a decorative item, and that is from the early 1900s. And last but not least, we're getting bids on the bottle stoppers right now. And these are in the $200 range for all of them there. They're made of wood, Italian, folk art from the 1920s to the 1930s.
I think they're great.
Aren't they? They're excellent.
You see these all the time.
They're
I mean, you know,
fun.
I haven't.
Yeah, I've never
I
seen
like
them.
them.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like them or anything else that's out for sale, here's what you do. You call us at 212-802-0082. Let's go back out to Arizona where Jack is awaiting an appraisal. Hi, Jack. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You've got a smile on your face, and so does the item that you brought.
Well,
Tell
it's
us
hard not
about
to smile around Pinocchio.
Yes. Where'd you get it?
My grandma was a collector in Ohio, and when we moved out to Arizona, he came with us.
Lovely. So you have some good memories of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing him when I was a little kid, and she had lots and lots of stuff, but this is one that sticks out in my mind.
Is there any marking on it?
There is. He has some marking on the back of his head here, kind of underneath his hat at the nape of his neck. It says Walt Disney Productions, and then poor Pinocchio here on national TV.
Yeah.
Show his backside here, but it says Pinocchio and some initials. I'm guessing Walt Disney Productions, and I think Knickerbocker Toy Company.
Well, let's see what Susie and John have to say about it.
1930s. The condition here is very important. This is composition that is starting to break down. At this point, it can be restored. It'll cost a little bit of money, but it can be restored.
How much would it cost to restore?
It would cost probably as much as the doll is worth right now.
That's the downside of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's been near a heat source.
Walt Disney Productions puts it into a little bit later period. The most desirable is Walt Disney Enterprises, which would be the 1930s. This is 1940s, early 50s vintage. It's a good one.
And how much?
In this current condition, unfortunately, it's only worth around $75 to $100.
And another $100 to restore it.
Yeah, or more. Yeah.
Well, it is adorable. Would you like to put it up for sale?
You bet.
Okay, we'll do that for you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks.
Okay, we got a letter in recently from Chester in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Chester writes, I've sent in pictures of a Laurel and Hardy statue that I picked up at a flea market. It's made of plaster, and there are no markings on it. It measures 20 inches high, 18 inches long, and weighs 5 pounds. Like an appraisal, and would entertain bids.
One of the downsides, unfortunately, of becoming a popular cultural icon is that everybody and his brother wants to get a piece of the action financially. This is a relatively new reproduction of an older original, which is fairly desirable. These are still being made and sold. I see them all the time here in New York on 8th Avenue for sale.
Right.
Unfortunately, its value is maybe $15, $20.
You sure that's
tops.
not Burt Reynolds on the right? So do you agree with the value?
I agree. It's a repro, and it's not worth a lot of money.
No.
Okay, $15 and $20, Chester, is what we're hearing. We'll let you know about those bids. Thanks for writing.
Our next letter writer is Russell from Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, who wrote us about a billiard table that could be quite valuable. Russell, welcome to the program.
Hi.
I liked looking at your billiard table. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite unique. I was told that only 2 tables like this were ever built, and it was built by a company in Jersey City, who I believe is out of business now, Corial and Sons. I think it was built in the 30s. It has a very heavy sleek top. What's really unique about the table, it's made of walnut. And it has, at one end, a little built-in radio, which is an old tube-type radio.
How wonderful.
And next to the radio, on either side of the radio, there are little bar cabinets.
Well, let's appraise it for you, because this is a unique piece.
All right.
It is unique, and it's very interesting. The cabinets look like they're original, but I don't think that radio is original. Something else was in there. If that was original, you would not have the outline covering the face of the radio the way you have it. Somebody's placed that in. Now, there may have been a radio in there. I haven't seen them, but I heard that Philco had some radios built in like that to certain pool tables.
How valuable a pool table we're looking at?
As is, it's probably somewhere around $5,000. It's still a very, very nice pool table.
Susie?
Okay.
Way under that.
Okay.
I'm going to put it at $1,500.
Okay, we have a little bit of a price range here, $1,500 to $5,000. Would you like to put it up for sale?
Well, I think we'd like to get some bids on it, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the phone today.
Okay, thank you.
All right, stick with us, folks. The big bids are next. Don't go nowhere.
Welcome back to Personal Facts. I want to thank Robert Newman from the Old Print Shop in New York City for teaching us more about Curry and Ives prints. And now it's time to get to those big bids. John?
I got them right here. Let's go out to Tucson, Arizona in order to get started. Bob with the Rookwood Bowl. Bob, I want to let you know, Doreen from Huntsville, Alabama called in with an offer of $210.
I think I'll probably think about that one.
All right, you think about it. Bill with the Pocket Watch. Esther from Marysville, Washington called in with an offer of $401.
I'll think about it.
Okay, think about it. Richard with the Cup and Saucers. Peggy from Baton Rouge, Louisiana called in with an offer of $40.
No.
No, can't do it. Julie with the Beatles Bobbers. Jan from Puyallup, Washington called in with an offer of $225.
Sold.
Andrew with the Pee Wee Herman doll and chair. Carol from Grand Junction, Colorado wants them for $200.
Sold. Ooh, that was a big sold. And Linda for the Yoko Ono and John Lennon wedding album. Jan from Puyallup, Washington is offering $350.
Sold.
Angel for your Figaro lamp. Rich from Key West, Florida has a bid of $100.
Sold.
Well, was it?
I'll think about it.
She'll
think about it.
Shirley for the Bottle Stoppers. Allison from Pittsburgh is offering $225.
Sold.
Sold. I like that. Okay. And let's go back out and say thank you. Io Haynes, what a fun time we had today.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Brian Miller for showing us his collection of Lionel trains. Tomorrow, 250 electric fans. Bye.
Have a great
See you
day.
tomorrow. Bye. All right, that is our show for today. Let's take time to thank our wonderful appraisers. Thank you, gang, for doing a great job as you usually do. Thank you very much. All right. Hope you guys had a great time. That is our show. We will see you back here tomorrow.
Have a great day, everybody.
So long.